In a grand universe, countless stars glitter across vast and colorful cosmic clouds. But within this expanse lies an endless void where a brilliant explosion of energy pierces the deep darkness. This universe is home to every imaginable being, from powerful sorcerers and grim reapers to advanced robots and dragons. Among the countless worlds, there is a desolate fiery planet that can only be described as hell. This place houses the worst prison in history, a massive high-security fortress designed for containment. Known as the Solitude of Christman, it holds the most fearsome and dangerous criminals from across the cosmos. Inside one of its cells, a small scorpion-like creature scurries across the cold, metallic floor. A large hand suddenly swoops down and snatches the tiny creature, lifting it from the ground. The hand belongs to a prisoner with long white hair who sits alone in the bleakness of his cell. The blindfolded man calmly brings the creature to his mouth, treating it as a simple meal. He chews on it for a moment, simply noting its bitter taste with a stoic expression. The prisoner sits quietly in his containment unit, illuminated only by a faint light from above. He then settles into a cross-legged position, maintaining his calm composure in the silent cell. Suddenly, a bright light pierces the darkness as a slot in the massive door illuminates. The heavy door slides open, flooding the small room with a brilliant particle-filled light. A guard stands waiting as the prisoner floats up, wondering if a month has already passed. The guard leads him out of the cell and into a vast deep shaft lined with machinery. The blindfolded man stands silently beside the armored guard, ready to be escorted. They both look up at the towering complex walls of the high-tech prison. The prison's interior is a dizzying maze of floating platforms and advanced structures. A long floating staircase materializes, creating a path upward through the vast mechanical chasm. The blindfolded prisoner walks up the glowing steps with a steady pace, the guard following closely behind. The guard is in disbelief, finding it strange that a prisoner is leading the way without any guidance. He remembers his seniors advising him to simply accept this inmate's odd behavior and not resist it. After all, the prison structure changes every month, making any attempt to predict the layout useless. This leaves the guard completely baffled as to how the old man could possibly know the correct path. He watches the inmates back with a mix of suspicion and awe, unable to comprehend the situation. The prisoner turns and casually tells the guard to be careful on his way back, while the guard just tells him to get in. Once the transfer is complete, the guard reports to his superiors and requests his current coordinates. The white-haired man named Kuin now stands in a massive hall filled with countless other prisoners. He calmly surveys the large area, estimating its size to be approximately 1,650 square meters. Immediately, a group of inmates notices the newcomer, pointing out that he looks like an old man. Another tougher-looking group smirks, thinking they won't need to use any flashy moves on him. The other inmates are relieved, thinking that he is just an ordinary old man and not another weirdo. This section of the prison, known as Solitude, holds the lowest-tier inmates, who are categorized by class. Siwen sniffs the air, sensing that all the inmates around him are bottom-of-the-barrel second class at best. He kneels on the ground as a robotic figure walks past him, taking in the atmosphere of the place. However, he detects a special set among the crowd, something that catches his attention. Just then, a bright light descends from above, and all the prisoners start shouting about food arriving. The old man watches the scene unfold, quietly wondering when he last had a real meal. The inmates stare at the descending meal with hungry eyes, murmuring that it is real food this time. They gather around a large steaming cauldron, hoping for something edible to finally arrive. One prisoner groans, realizing it is made-up porridge again, but another tells him to eat it or starve. The man with the scar rushes forward anyway, determined to get at least one bite of the disgusting meal. However, a massive pig-like inmate named Tommy steps in his way, declaring that he eats first. The other prisoners complain quietly, wondering how long the stronger inmates will hog all the food. As Tommy and his group eat, the rest can only hope that there will be some leftovers for them. Nearby, a small boy tells his larger companion he is hungry, and the young man tells him to hold on. A different group complains about the awful taste, but agrees that it is still better than nothing. The muscular young man watches the stronger inmates with a serious expression, his gaze fixed on them. Just then, Siwen starts walking toward the food, but one of the bullies tells the old geezer to stop. The blindfolded man calmly states that he only wants one bowl, asking for a little respect for the elderly. A large man with a mustache confronts him, asking if he is unaware of the rules for getting food. He looks down at the old man, questioning if he is senile or just trying to cause problems. When Kuin keeps walking, the man grabs his shoulder angrily asking if he is even listening to him. The bully calls him a bandaged freak as a strange aura starts to radiate from the old prisoner. He mockingly asks how a blind man could have possibly sniffed his way over to the meal. In a flash, Kuin moves with unbelievable speed, his form becoming a blur to everyone watching. The large bully is suddenly sent flying backward, screaming in agony about his eyes. The blindfolded man had struck him with pinpoint accuracy, disabling him in a single swift motion. Kun warns the others not to touch his eyes as the injured bully falls, defeated and bleeding. The muscular youth and the small boy look on in complete shock at the old man's sudden display of power. Even Tommy the pig-like brute stops eating and stares surprised by the newcomer's skill and raged. Tommy orders his gang to bring the old man to him, wanting to deal with him personally. Kuin stands tall and sniffs the air again, unfazed by the growing crowd of hostile inmates. Meanwhile, in a control room, a high-ranking officer asks a guard what the old man just did. The guard reveals that the prisoner had just endured 30 days of solitary confinement, the harshest penalty. The officer seems unimpressed, noting that hundreds of inmates die every day in the prison. He then explains that a single cell in the facility can hold several 100 people at once. As he speaks, he signs a document implying that the old man is far more dangerous than he appears. It is revealed that Khan had single-handedly killed every single inmate in his previous cell. Back in the common area, the prisoners are in an uproar surrounding the blindfolded man with weapons. Khan effortlessly dodges and weaves through his attackers, countering their strikes with deadly precision. He moves like a whirlwind of destruction, cutting down his opponents with a hidden blade. Back in the office, the commander explains that while it sounds unbelievable, the report is 100% true. In just one night, the old man had killed a total of 241 people, leaving no survivors. The other inmates can only watch in horror. Unable to comprehend the old man's true strength, the commander continues, adding another interesting fact about the prisoner known as Kuin. He reminds the guard that every inmate in Solitude receives a serial number upon entry. With a sinister smile, he asks if the guard remembers what that old man's specific number is. The guard recalls his interaction with the prisoner, remembering him only as number 51. The commander smirks, telling the guard that while he might be new, the inmate is infamous. The old man, whose true name is Arjul Lostes, stands over the defeated pigman Tommy. All the other inmates can only stare in absolute shock, unable to comprehend what just happened. They murmur amongst themselves, questioning how a seemingly frail old man could do all of that. Arjul calmly sniffs the air as the beaten and bloodied Tommy kneels before him, utterly defeated. The muscular young man sweats, still trying to figure out the true identity of the mysterious elder. With a menacing red aura, Arjul's presence fills the hall, and a young boy realizes he is here. The child looks on with wide, terrified eyes, understanding the danger this man represents. Blood splatters across the old warrior's face, yet his expression remains completely unreadable. Dozens of inmates lie on the ground, completely wiped out without putting up a real fight. The onlookers find it unbelievable that all of them were taken down by just one person. However, the crowd soon notices that all the defeated prisoners are still groaning in pain. Tommy Breathe is heavily shocked to realize that not a single one of his men is actually dead. He looks up at the mysterious figure, completely humbled and wondering who this old man is. Arjul asks if they truly believe that having more people automatically equals strength. He continues that while numbers might work on some, they mean nothing when everyone is so weak. The old warrior then coldly informs Tommy that he probably only has a month or two left to live. He then holds up his unique spiral blade, presenting the defeated brute with an offer. Arjul tells him that if he wishes to die sooner than that, he should come and find him. After the fight, the inmates line up at the cold run, their shadows cast long on the rocky floor. Arjul scoops up a bowl of the purple porridge, noting that he did not even get this in solitary. He walks away with his meal, his imposing figure causing the other prisoners to instinctively part ways. Everyone eats their portion, and the muscular young man watches Arjul from a safe distance. The young man thinks about the harsh reality of Solitude, a place where most prisoners do not survive. The prison employs various systems designed to torment the inmates, making survival even harder. Because of these brutal conditions, anyone who manages to survive is someone to be wary of. The youth knows he must be cautious of everyone, especially the mysterious and powerful old man. He recalls Arjul's movements during the fight, recognizing that they were anything but ordinary. The boy? Ciro, complains about the nasty taste as his companion decides they must stay away from Argel. Suddenly, the old warrior appears right behind them, startling the muscular young man. The youth grabs Ciro and leaps away in a panic, wondering how the old man got there so quickly. Argel snips the air again, his attention clearly focused on the two of them, particularly the boy. The old warrior has detected a special scent, something he has noticed ever since he arrived. He turns his attention to Ciro, his blindfolded gaze fixed on the young red-eyed boy. Argel reveals that the boy has very special blood, which explains the unique scent he detected. The muscular youth becomes enraged, demanding to know what the old man is talking about. Argel simply replies that instinct is the only thing that improves when you get as old as him. The young man grits his teeth, his anger and protectiveness towards Ciro flaring up. He jeets San on a wide Argel if he tells anyone, his body glowing with a fierce red aura. Argel calmly states that revealing the secret would not benefit him, admitting he just found it entertaining. The young man decides to leave, telling Ciro it is time to go, and the boy quietly agrees. He puts a protective arm around Ciro as they walk away, leaving the old warrior behind. The other inmates watch interaction, still wary and confused by the recent events. Suddenly, a massive column of golden light erupts from the ground, catching everyone's attention. An inmate remarks that the prisoners from the quarry must be returning as the light intensifies. A group of large, formidable beastmen emerges from the brilliant light, looking exhausted. A rhino beastman named Menrock complains about how tired he is after a long day of work. His companion, a bald eagle beastman named Horik, quickly agrees with his sentiment. A third member of their group, a Werebeast named Gork, remains silent with a stern expression. The group then notices the blood splattered all over the floor, wondering what happened while they were gone. Horik crouches down, noting the large amount of blood and questioning the sudden chaos after a quiet month. Menrock becomes enraged, yelling about working all day and demanding to know who made the mess. He furiously orders whoever is responsible to show themselves as the other prisoners watched nervously. Argel steps forward from the crowd, calmly admitting he caused the commotion and asking if there is a problem. The Beastmen are surprised to see an old man, and one mockingly asks if he did all this alone. Menrock dismisses him as a crazy old man spouting nonsense, clearly underestimating him. The blindfolded warrior stares back at the rhino beastmen, his expression firm and unyielding. Menrock loses his patience, stating he does not have time for jokes and moves to attack Argel. However, Horik watches with wide eyes, sensing an immense danger radiating from the old man. Argel remains completely still, his calm demeanor creating an unsettling tension in the air. Horror quickly moves to stop his companion, yelling at Menrock not to attack the old man. The rhino beastman sweats, confused and intimidated by the powerful aura emanating from a mere old man. The eagle beastman plays with Argel, promising they will not harm him if he leaves them alone. Argel agrees, stating he has no business with them as long as they do not start anything. He then turns and walks away, hoping he can finally live in peace as the beastmen watch him go. Aura gulps, sweating profusely with a mix of fear and relief after the tense confrontation. Suddenly, a large glowing holographic symbol appears in the air, signaling a prison-wide announcement. A system voice declares that sleep time is beginning and orders all prisoners to lie flat on their backs. This is the anti-stand system, one of 4 control methods used in Solitude enforced by their collars. The collars activate, increasing gravity and forcing every inmate to lie flat on the ground. Any attempt to resist or rise against the force results in a deadly electric shock called a spark. The prisoners sigh in resignation, knowing they have no choice but to lie down until morning. One inmate complains about the complete control as a small strange bud scurries across the floor. The bizarre multi-eyed creature appears to be some kind of parasite crawling over an inmate's veins. As they lie on the floor, Menrock calls out to his companion, breaking the enforced silence. He asks Horik why he stopped him earlier, admitting he did not think the old man looked that strong. The eagle beastman explains that he saw something, leaving his friend confused as they lay among the others. With a look of pure terror, Horik reveals that he managed to see the old man's prisoner number. He confirms it was number 51, causing Menrock to react with complete shock and disbelief. Menrock is stunned, wondering how long the old man could have been imprisoned to have such a low number. Horik speculates that the old warrior has likely been there since the prison's very foundation. He points out that the number was not marked with a class designation like the other inmates. It was just a plain number without any classification, a sign of his unique status in the prison. Horik concludes it is best to avoid someone who survived solitude for decades, but Menrock worries. The rhino Beastman thumps the ground in frustration, arguing that the old man might hold a grudge. Suddenly, a strange noise catches their attention and both Beastmen look up in alarm. Screams fill the air as zombie-like inmates begin to viciously attack the others around them. While pinned to the ground by the gravity system, Manrock asks what is happening. The Eagle Beastman stares with wide eyes, identifying the terrifying creatures as zombies. Elsewhere, Argel lies on the ground simply complaining that the chaotic screaming is too noisy. The helpless inmates are swarmed and bitten, their bodies being torn apart by the undead horde. Annoyed, Argel wonders if the Bud Room was opened while he was in solitary confinement. Electricity crackles around his restraints as he clenches his fists fighting against the system. He forces himself to sit up despite the intense electrical shocks. Surrounded by approaching zombies, the old warrior slowly gets to his feet, stating, he is wide awake now as lightning courses through him. Suro and his companion watch in complete astonishment at the man's incredible display of power. The young man struggles against the gravity system, shocked by the sudden appearance of the zombies. He urgently tells Suro to crawl over to a nearby rock for safety, but the boy hesitates in fear. Pushing through the pain, the youth forces himself up, enduring the shocks to protect his young friend. With a determined snarl, the young man prepares to fight, challenging the zombies to bring it on. His body transforms, growing larger and more feral as he curses the approaching undead horde. He leaps into the fray, vowing to take down every last one of the zombies himself. The young warrior tears through the undead, crushing skulls with his newfound strength and ferocity. The Beastmen also find themselves under attack, struggling to fight back against the swarming zombies. Menrock roars in frustration, fighting off the undead while still being zapped by the anti-stand system. Horik desperately fights off the endless waves, realizing that their numbers just keep growing. As Beastmen, they can resist the system to some extent, but the weaker prisoners are the real problem. Horik knows that eventually, all the weaker inmates will be turned into more zombies. Menrock questions why the zombies are unaffected, and Horik suggests the system does not work on the dead. Just then, an even larger horde of zombies begins to charge toward them from the darkness. The Beastmen look on in horror as another wave of the undead rushes to join the fight. The zombies are relentless, their grotesque faces contorted in mindless hunger and aggression. Menrock curses, realizing his stamina is nearly gone due to the constant electrical shocks. Horik suggests they brace themselves against a rock to conserve energy and hold their ground. The ankle restraints continue to spark with electricity, draining the strength of every living inmate. Suddenly, Argel leaps into the air, surrounded by a musitrum of crackling blue energy. He descends upon the horde like a thunderbolt, landing right in the middle of the zombie swarm. The old warrior moves with blinding speed, cutting down the undead with ruthless efficiency. The Beastmen can only stare in awe. Once again shocked by the old man's incredible power, Argel stands amidst the fallen zombies, leaving the remaining inmates completely speechless. He nonchalantly remarks that at least they were not taken down by the vampiric zombies themselves. The Beastmen sit on the ground, exhausted and still crackling with electricity from the system. Horik asks the old man why he helped them, and Argel simply replies he did not want to get annoyed. The Eagle Beastman understands, realizing that Beastmen are much stronger than normal people. If they had turned into zombies, they would have been a huge pain to deal with, so Argel intervened. Just then, they noticed that their companion Gork the Werebeast has been turned into a zombie. Menrock panics, shouting at Argel that the newly turned zombie is a powerful Beastman. Argel calmly faces the zombified Gork, remarking it has been a while since he last fought a Werebeast. Without hesitation, the old warrior strikes, plunging his blade deep into the zombie's chest. The zombified Werebeast reels back in pain but quickly retaliates with a ferocious attack. Argel easily dodges, unimpressed by its strength and noting its fast reaction speed. Horik watches in disbelief, amazed that the old man can fight so effectively. Gork lets out a furious roar and lunges at Argel, his massive fist ready to crush him. The old warrior moves with impossible grace, effortlessly dodging every single one of the zombies' attacks. His feet seem to float above the ground, his movements completely unrestricted by the system. Argel weaves through the Werebeast's flurry of punches without being slowed down in the slightest. Horik is utterly baffled, wondering how the blind man can move like that without even looking. The zombified Werebeast suddenly transforms, its power growing several times stronger. It takes on the form of a massive monstrous were-dog, specifically a ferocious Doberman. Argel calls the Werebeast a fool, stating that simply becoming a Beastman does not change anything. He effortlessly parries the creature's attack, his movements fluid and precise. The old warrior moves in close, preparing to strike a decisive blow against the transformed zombie. He lands a powerful kick, sending the massive were-dog stumbling backward from the impact. Argel explains that bulking up only creates more openings, a lesson he is about to demonstrate. He moves with lightning speed, striking the were-dog with a devastating attack that ends the fight. Horik's instincts scream at him, telling him that to survive in solitude, he must follow that man. He watches as Argel stands victorious over the fallen Werebeast, surrounded by crackling energy. Argel turns his attention back to the young man, noting that he is still holding out against the zombies. The defeated Werebeast weakly calls out for help as it lies on the ground, its life fading. Menrock desperately calls out to the old man, asking where he is going as he turns to leave. Argel simply leaps away, leaving the Beastmen and the remaining inmates to fend for themselves. The young warrior struggles to protect Ciro, cursing as the zombies continue their relentless assault. The boy pinned to the ground points and yells that the old man is over there fighting. The youth looks up, his eyes widening in shock at the incredible sight before him. Argel is single-handedly fighting off the entire horde of zombies, a whirlwind of death and destruction. The young man stares in disbelief as one of his arms begins to mutate, growing dark and monstrous. Argel continues his assault, effortlessly cutting through the undead with his deadly blade. The youth is stunned, realizing the old man has now taken down that entire horde of zombies too. He can only stare at the aftermath, wondering who in the world that mysterious old man could be. A holographic message appears announcing that all inmates must rise. The prison system declares the start of the morning roll call. The results are grim as the floor is littered with the bodies of the fallen. Out of 94 inmates, 80 are now dead, yet Argel sits calmly on a rock. Only 14 survivors remain, a small battered group standing in the aftermath. The system identifies their location as cell block 1257. Just then, new prisoners begin to arrive. Looking around at the bleak prison, a glowing portal activates, signaling that the cell block's population will be replenished. The newcomers look nervous, taking in the oppressive atmosphere of their new home. One of them wonders aloud what kind of place Solitude Prison truly is. Their confusion turns to horror as they notice the smell and see the corpses. Meanwhile, the survivors are too exhausted to even pay attention to the newcomers. The few remaining inmates quietly return to their own spots in the large hall. The morning roll call ends in a heavy, hollow silence that fills the entire area. The cause of the outbreak is revealed to be of empiric zombie flea whose bite is fatal. Argel states that since all the zombies are gone, it should be safe now. He touches his blindfold, a thoughtful expression on his face. The old warrior then stands up and begins to walk away from his resting spot. The other inmates watch in shock, wondering what the old man is doing. They are stunned to see him heading toward an exit as if the door was unlocked for him. Horik warns the newcomers that if they want to die, they should follow the old man. He explains that everyone who has ever walked through that door never came back. The ground outside the cell block is littered with the bones of those who tried to escape. The Eagle Beast man grimly states that something insane is lurking in the prison hallways. He believes a creature capable of wiping them all out is waiting just beyond the door. Argel walks down the dark corridor, seemingly unconcerned by the potential dangers. He senses that something beyond imagination is waiting for him out there. A small goblin-like creature carrying a large sack then appears before the old warrior. The creature greets him as master, and Argel says he expected him after hearing the noise. The blindfolded man agrees that it has been a very long time since they last met. He then addresses the small creature by his name, Jacob. Argel asks if a guard told him he was here, and Jacob confirms he paid 5 gold coins for the tip. Jacob complains about the greedy guard, but says the price was small to see his master again. Argel cuts the conversation short, asking if Jacob is here for the usual business. The goblin gets a serious look in his eyes, mentioning that he is sure Argel has heard the news. He then asks about the shift that occurred the day before yesterday. Jacob unrolls a large parchment, asking the old man to draw the new map for him. The shift is shown to be a massive rearrangement of the prison structure. Because of these constant changes, memorizing any path through the prison is nearly impossible. Jacob thinks to himself that Argel's ability to feel the new layout is truly insane. After a few moments, Argel announces that the map is finished and Jacob thanks him enthusiastically. The goblin then offers to pull anything the old man needs from his magic bag. Argel thinks for a moment and asks if his companion has any real food. Jacob pulls out a large portion of cooked meat, admitting he is embarrassed to trade it for such a valuable map. He then tells the old warrior that he has some juicy intel for him. Jacob reveals that a summoning is supposed to happen in all the lower cell blocks today. The two sit across from each other as the old man prepares to eat his meal. Argel thanks him for the information, admitting he can never predict when those events will happen. The goblin then nervously asks if those guys have been causing any trouble lately. He is referring to a mysterious robed group that operates under a strange red symbol. Argel reassures him that it has been quiet and tells him not to worry, so Jacob apologizes for overstepping. With their business concluded, the goblin smiles and says he will take his leave now. Jacob bows and wishes him a safe return, and the old warrior tells him to be careful as well. Argel returns to his cell block, placing a hand on the rusty sign by the door. He quietly says the name Ken, which seems to be written on the plate. The old man realizes Jacob must have been talking about the warden who placed him in this specific cell. He thinks it might have been for the best, as his health is improving and he plans to get his reward. Back in the common area, some inmates suddenly start sniffing the air, noticing a new smell. One of them shouts in excitement, realizing it is the smell of meat and demanding to know where it is coming from. The prisoners quickly spot Argel with his bag of food, shocked to see real meat instead of worm slop. Some of the hungry inmates immediately lunge for the food but are sent flying back by a powerful blast. Horik steps forward, protectively warning the others not to lay a finger on the old man. Menrock roars in fury, asking which of them he should beat up first, and the inmates recognize him as a Beastman. The other prisoners quickly retreat, leaving Argel and his small group of allies alone. The old warrior addresses the Eagle Beastman, who corrects him on the proper pronunciation of his name. Everyone stares at the large pile of steaming cooked ribs, a rare sight in the prison. Menrock drools, asking the master how he managed to get such a delicious meal. Ciro's eyes light up with hunger and excitement, catching his companion by surprise. Argel dismisses the question, simply telling them all to eat before the food gets cold. After they finish eating, Horak thanks the old warrior for the meal and for his help the day before. The blindfolded man tells him there is nothing to be thankful for, his expression turning grim. He explains that in a place like this, even being alive can eventually become a curse. However, he admits that he could still feel their desperation when they were fighting for their lives. He sits before them, stating that he wants to ask them something about surviving in this hellish place. He then asks the small group of survivors if they truly want to make it out of Solitude alive. Monrock immediately replies that of course they do, explaining that it is a natural instinct for survival. Argel then poses a difficult question, asking if they would still follow that instinct if it begged them to die. He explains that is what isolation does, and he asks them again if they truly want to live. The Rhino Beastman clenches his fist, declaring that he is not dying pointlessly in a place like this. With a look of determination, also states that he wants to live. Ciro adds that he wants to survive so he can return home and see his father again. Argel sits before them, his expression unreadable as he processes their resolve. The old warrior thinks about his own 66-year promise that he is determined to fulfill. He knows his time is running out, and having more allies will only increase his chances of success. Having made up his mind, the elder tells small group to get ready for what is coming. He then reveals that there is going to be a summoning sometime today. Meanwhile, other inmates are tasked with the grim job of clearing away the bodies. One complains about the horrible task, but the other reminds him it is necessary to prevent disease. They sadly conclude that their only crime in this place is being weak. The two look on in horror and disgust at the sheer number of corpses they have to move. A massive pile of bodies serves as a grim reminder of why Solitude is called the universe's worst prison. One mentions a rumor that an old man once killed everyone, but his friend dismisses it as a lie. Suddenly, a bright golden light appears, and they see something coming out of it. Strange, grotesque, stone-faced creatures emerge, drooling and licking their lips. The nearby prisoners stare in absolute terror, wondering what these new monsters are. The creatures begin to advance, causing the inmates to panic and run away screaming. Horik nervously asks Argel if these are the summit beasts he was talking about. The old warrior sits calmly on his rock and tells his new ally not to worry. He explains that these creatures are just janitors here to clean up the cells. An inmate, feeling relieved, kicks one of the creatures, calling it disgusting for scaring them. Arjel adds that if they are attacked, the creatures will get angry and the inmate is sent flying by an explosion. The old warrior then turns to Horak and asks about the thing he had requested from him earlier. The Eagle Beastman confirms he took care of everything and is even doing some extra work just in case. Arjel is satisfied with the answer and tells his new allies it is time to head back and get ready. Elsewhere, the two inmates tasked with cleanup are still walking, feeling sick from their grim duty. One calls the other a drama queen, but his friend explains he has seen corpses but never watched them rot. His companion tells him to suck it up, but the other inmate suddenly stops, his eyes wide with shock. In the distance, another much larger summoning begins, engulfing the area in a massive pillar of fire. A monstrous two-headed lizard emerges from the flames, leaving the inmates utterly stunned. Someone screams in terror, realizing the creature is a deadly fire-breathing dragon. The prisoners stare in disbelief, wondering what kind of monster has been summoned into their cell block. The two-headed dragon hovers menacingly, its presence filling the entire hall with dread. Flames begin to gather in the creature's mouths, signaling an imminent and devastating attack. The inmates are frozen in fear, their eyes wide with terror as they watch the beast prepare its assault. A massive fireball erupts from its mouth, instantly engulfing one of the prisoners in a fiery explosion. The sight breaks their paralysis, and the remaining inmates begin to scream and run for their lives. The dragon continues its attack, raining down a relentless storm of fire from above. The cell block is thrown into chaos as the prisoners desperately try to escape the spreading inferno. The fiery assault is devastating, and an inmate notes that half the prisoners in one area were burned to death. Horak watches the destruction in horror and asks Arjel if this, the summoning he was talking about. Arjel curses, realizing they summoned the worst possible monster. He recalls Jacob's warning that the monster being summoned was the cursed fire-breathing dragon. Menrock complains about the intense heat, wondering if they can even take the beast down. The old warrior reassures them that the setup they prepared will do its job just fine. He then tells them that if they follow his instructions, they will not die, and warns that the dragon is coming. The massive creature crashes to the ground, its fiery body sending sparks flying everywhere. Arjel gives his first command, telling everyone to remember what he is about to say. He explains that 1 second after it opens its mouth, it unleashes a 10-meter stream of fire. The old warrior instructs them to immediately get behind a rock when they see the dragon. The group quickly takes cover as a massive blast of fire erupts from the creature's mouth. The young man holds Ciro, protectively watching the dragon's every move. They realize their preparations of gathering stones and building a flame shield have paid off. Menrock complains, asking the old man for a heads-up next time. The Rhino Beastman then yells at Horak to switch with him, but the Eagle Beastman refuses. Suro brings the Eagle Beastman a small container of water he collected, and Horak thanks him. The old warrior tells him to mix it with dirt and fling the mud at the dragon when it is distracted. Menrock prepares a large pile of rocks ready to throw them at the beast. Arjel explains that even a fire-breathing dragon still needs to breathe like any other creature. He reveals that this particular dragon actually breathes through its skin. The mud covers the dragon's body, causing it to suffocate and freeze in place, unable to see. Arjel walks toward the immobilized dragon, his blade glowing with a menacing red light. He unleashes a flurry of attacks, tearing the massive creature apart in a bloody display of power. The old warrior reflects that to survive in isolation, one must become a monster themselves. The remaining prisoners stare in shock as the fighting finally stops, wondering if it is over. They can hardly believe they managed to bring down such a powerful beast. The group of survivors stands over the dragon's corpse, their teamwork having paid off. Suro looks up at his companion, a shocked and confused expression on his face. Arjel comments that they were all ready to face death, but the danger is not over yet. To their horror, another summoning begins and the inmates cry out in despair. Arjel remains calm, stating that he is also speaking from his guts and is ready for what is next. This time, over 10 fire-breathing dragons are summoned, filling the hall with a fiery glow. The group looks on in terror, wondering if they can possibly survive against such overwhelming odds. The dragons let out a deafening roar, their collective power shaking the entire cell block. Arjel turns to face the new threat, his expression grim as he assesses the situation. The real issue is that the dragons have cut off their escape, trapping them in a sea of fire. The old warrior calmly says no, stating it would be impossible to keep them all alive this time. Horik questions his master's decision, knowing that things could be even worse out in the hallways. Menrock panics, screaming that it is more dangerous outside and questioning the plan. The Eagle Beastman tells his friend to calm down, reminding him that the safest place is next to the old man. As he speaks, one of the dragons lunges forward, its massive head bearing down on the Rhino Beastman. Just as the dragon attacks, Argyle grunts, preparing to intervene. He leaps into the air with incredible speed, his body a blur against the fiery backdrop. The old warrior lands a powerful blow, saving Menrock from the dragon's attack at the last second. Argyle turns to the stunned Rhino Beastman, reminding him that he did not want to die meaninglessly. He then orders everyone to move, telling them they have no time to waste as he leads the way. The small group quickly follows him, entering the dark and ominous hallway. Horik sweats nervously, unable to see clearly and realizing this is the dangerous hallway he heard about. The old warrior warns everyone to stay alert as they might run into other inmates out here. He explains that a third or fourth class prisoner could kill them in the blink of an eye. The Eagle Beastman offers to take the rear and watch their backs using his superior eyesight. Argyle agrees but gives him a stern warning to never stray from the group for any reason. As Horik follows behind, his sixth sense tells him that something far away is watching him. He begins to question if they are truly safe in this dark and foreboding corridor. The Eagle Beastman's senses scream at him, confirming there is definitely something else in the hallway. He calls out to his master, suggesting they should turn back to the relative safety of the cell. A look of pure terror spreads across Horik's face as he stares into the darkness. In the distance, a tall, slender figure appears, a single red beam of light shining from its eye. Menrock panics, shouting for Horak as the rest of the group continues down the hallway. Argyle tells him to be quiet, warning that shouting will only attract more danger. The old warrior calmly explains that among the dangers are ghost-like beings that can change position freely. The Rhino Beastman sweats, unnerved by the thought of facing actual ghosts. The elder clarifies that anything one can imagine exists in this dangerous corridor. Menrock is torn, unable to disbelieve what he saw but still worried about finding his friend. Argyle reassures him, saying there is no need to worry about finding a mere sparrow, though he is a bald eagle. Meanwhile, Horak finds himself alone in a seemingly endless corridor. This mysterious place was built by grand wizards and genius architects to be inescapable. He can hardly believe he was left behind in such a dangerous and confusing place. The Eagle Beastman suddenly senses something approaching and braces himself for a fight. A massive, muscular figure charges toward him, its footsteps shaking the ground. Horik stares in horror at the approaching beast, his eyes wide with fear. He realizes with a jolt of terror that the creature charging at him is an ogre. The massive beast swings its club, and the Eagle Beastman barely manages to dodge the attack. He knows he must stay sharp. If he wants to survive this encounter, the ogre unleashes a powerful ground slam, but Horik leaps into the air to avoid the shockwave. He is sent flying by the force of the attack, crashing hard against the corridor wall. The Eagle Beastman knows he cannot possibly take on such a powerful creature alone. His survival instincts kick in, screaming at him to run away as fast as he can just as Horik is about to flee. He finds himself surrounded by two more ogres. He curses his bad luck, his feathers ruffled as he prepares for a desperate fight. The Eagle Beastman knows that the moment he is caught, he will be torn to pieces. He is forced to dodge a relentless barrage of attacks from the three massive beasts. With a cry of desperation, he leaps into the air, determined not to die in this place. However, one of the ogres manages to grab him, its massive hand closing around his body. As the beast prepares to eat him, Horik wonders if his life is about to end so meaninglessly. Suddenly, a new figure appears, landing a powerful blow on the ogre's head. It is a pig-like beastman who has arrived just in time to save the Eagle Beastman. He lands gracefully, ready to take on the remaining ogres himself. Horik is stunned, completely baffled by this unexpected turn of events. The newcomer explains that with a bold attack, they have successfully taken the initiative. He then steps up to plate, announcing himself as Player Becky and preparing to fight. The pig-like warrior unleashes a flurry of attacks, calling out baseball terms as he fights. He moves with surprising speed and agility, taking on the massive beasts with his trusty bat. After a short but intense battle, he prepares to land the finishing blow. He lands a devastating uppercut, knocking the ogre's head clean off in a double play. Horik is speechless, amazed that 2 ogres were beaten down so easily. Player Becky then smashes a 2-run homer, finishing off the last ogre in style. He then celebrates his victory, enjoying the fruits of his labor as he eats the fallen ogre. Horik stares at his savior, his mind reeling from the sudden turn of events. He recognizes the number 4 on the pigman's clothes, identifying him as a level 4 prisoner. Realizing he has no other choice, the Eagle Beastman begs the stranger for help. The pigman asks what his deal is, and Horik pleads for his life, desperate not to die. Becky is amused, but then he suddenly sniffs the air, his expression changing. He grabs Horik, demanding to know who he is and why he smells like the blind old man. The pigman's demeanor becomes menacing as he demands an answer, and Horik nervously mentions Lord Argyll. Just then, 2 more figures appear, and one of them calls out to Becky. The Eagle Beastman is stunned, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and confusion. The newcomer scolds Becky for running off on his own, reminding him how many times he has been told. He then reveals that he knows Becky caught the ogres, seeing it as a blessing from the gods. The group is in awe, amazed that they managed to catch such dangerous creatures. Horik and Becky are then confronted by a group of 4 powerful level 4 prisoners. The Eagle Beastman is terrified, realizing that it was much safer back in the cell. A fierce battle rages in the hallway, the clash of powerful inmates echoing through the prison. Argyll appears, having finally reached his destination. He tells everyone to stop, and Menrock asks if he has found Horik. The old warrior tells them to come closer and look down into the area below. The group stares in shock at the scene unfolding before them. A massive spider-like monster is feasting on the corpses of the fallen inmates, and Horik is among them. Argyll explains that the monster is strong enough to easily kill a level 5 prisoner. He reveals that all the ghosts in the corridor have names, and this one is called Decapitation. The old warrior confirms, his expression grim as he watches the creature below. He explains that it is named that because its primary method of killing is cutting off heads. The monster's menacing, multi-eyed face and sharp fangs fill the group with dread. Argyll warns them to be careful, as there is no longer a safe zone now that they have seen it. He tells them they were lucky not to be spotted, as they would have all been slaughtered. The old warrior asks if they are scared, and Menrock admits the hallway is not a good place for a stroll. When Argyll suggests turning back, the Rhino Beastman refuses, unwilling to leave his friend behind. The elder is pleased with his answer and tells him to keep looking for his friend. The young man asks if they can really find him, and Argyll reassures him not to worry. Elsewhere, Becky violently interrogates Horik, demanding to know his connection to the old man. One of the other level 4 prisoners asks what is wrong, noticing the commotion. Becky explains that he smelled that old man on the stranger, confirming his suspicions. One of their companions, a zombie-like man named Arak, begins to panic, realizing he might die. The leader of the group tells Arak not to be scared, as the old man is not there. He then tells Becky that he just wants to talk to the Eagle Beastman for a bit. The leader warns him not to go too far, and Becky complains about missing his chicken dinner. The red-haired woman of the group tells Horik not to be too afraid, as they are not capable of harming him. She then reveals that in isolation, many are targeting a man named Argyll. The woman warns him that being with Argyll means getting involved with dangerous beings, a fate that dozens of lives could not endure. The Eagle Beastman sweats nervously, his eyes wide as he asks what kind of beings she is talking about. She describes them as monsters, so terrifying they cannot even be looked at directly, warning him to be careful. The woman then begins to channel a powerful energy, enveloping herself in a warm golden light. Horik is amazed as his wounds instantly heal. She explains she also recited a prayer to ease his mind and tells him to return safely. She wishes him the constellation's blessings as her group walks away, and the Eagle Beastman gratefully thanks her for her help. With his strength restored, Horik finds that he can move again and begins the long walk back into the darkness. After a while, he hears familiar footsteps in the distance, and his eyes fill with tears of overwhelming relief. He finally reunites with Menrock and the others, who are all overjoyed to see that he is still alive. The Rhino Beastman thanks the old warrior profusely, and Horik bows his head in gratitude, confirming he is now safe. Argyll asks if a level 4 prisoner treated him, and Horik says yes, adding that the person believed in the constellation of light which relieves the elder. The young man overhears the phrase Eski stars, remarking that it sounds familiar, and asks Ciro if he remembers what he told him. He explains that there are godlike beings in the cosmos like the angelic constellation of light and the demonic void stars of darkness. He adds that most followers, whether light or dark, are fanatics who truly believe in a guaranteed afterlife. The youth concludes that even in a place like Solitude, the inmates' beliefs are split between different gods. Suro realizes Horik met one of them, while Arjul notes the Eagle Beastman has potential for growth after surviving the dangerous hallway. As Menrock thanks him again, Arjul tells them to live with motivation, mentioning that he has trained many powerful fangs. Before, he recalls training formidable warriors, stating that while the process takes time, it is not a difficult task for him. However, the old warrior's one major concern is that he does not have much time left to see his plans through. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing that his rapidly dwindling time is a serious problem. Arjul suddenly yells for everyone to run at full speed, his expression grim and determined. As they flee, a massive fiery explosion erupts right behind them, signaling the arrival of a new threat. A terrifying slender monster with glowing red eyes and blade-like limbs crashes down from above. The entire group looks back in absolute horror, their faces pale with shock and fear at the sight of the creature. The monster lands with a deafening crash, and the young man tells Suro to hold on tight as he urges everyone to run. Horik shouts at Menrock, asking what that thing is, and the Rhino Beastman stammers that it is the Beheader. The creature known as the Beheader relentlessly pursues them through the dark and desolate corridor. The youth grits his teeth, recalling the old warrior's warning that even level 5 prisoners are killed easily by that thing. He realizes this is a far greater danger than the ogres they feared before and tells his panicking companion to just run. Arjul effortlessly lifts both the young man and Suro, warning that getting caught by the monster means instant death. The old warrior knows he cannot afford to lose his new allies here and decides he must draw the creature away himself. As the Beheader strikes again, landing just behind them, the young man cries out that he cannot go on much longer. Arjul points toward a narrow passage, instructing the group to head inside for temporary safety. The monster roars in frustration as it tries to follow, but finds the entrance is too narrow for it to get through. The elder tells them this is just the beginning and instructs the Eagle Beastmen to lead the others to the cells through a split path. Arjul states that he will lure the creature somewhere else, and Horik looks back with a determined expression, understanding his role. The Beheader begins to violently smash its bladed limbs against the narrow opening, tearing through the metal wall. It becomes clear the monster intends to smash its way through with pure brute force, and the group panics. Just as the wall explodes, Arjul yells at them to go running in the opposite direction to draw the Beheader's attention. The rest of the group finally reaches a safe area, collapsing in exhaustion as Menrock asks if they really got away. The young man suggests they should go back and fight alongside the old warrior, but Menrock says the hallway is crawling with those things. Just as the Rhino Beastman agrees they cannot just leave him behind, Horik firmly tells them no. He explains that the elder has been living alone in this prison for far longer than any of them can imagine. This means he has fought countless ghosts, and they would only be baggage who would not survive if they went back. The Eagle Beastman reminds them their job is to get to the cells as fast as possible, and the group reluctantly agrees to leave. Meanwhile, the Beheader taunts Arjul, offering to cut off his legs so they will not hurt anymore. The monster continues its mockery, suggesting he leave a will, but the old man asks if it hates him so much that it wants him dead. Arjul pretends not to understand, calmly asking how he could have possibly tricked the creature. The Beheader roars in fury, accusing him of breaking a promise to play rock, paper, scissors from over 4 years ago. As the monster rages, the old warrior's expression turns serious. Realizing something is off about this ghost, he knows ghosts are mentally unstable. So its clear memory means someone he knows sent it. He thinks of a name, Saddle. The creature seems confused by the word, repeating the name and asking what it means. Arjul recalls that Saddle was just a brat 5 years ago and is now surprised he can control ghosts. A new voice speaks through the monster. Impressed that the elder noticed its hidden mark, the old warrior scoffs, asking if his opponent has forgotten that his eyes miss nothing and revealing he was just testing him. In a burst of red energy, a necromancer from the demon worshippers appears, confirming his name is Saddle. Arjul states that even after 5 years, Saddle still has not realized they are on completely different levels. The necromancer scoffs through the monster, declaring that this time will be different as it lunges to attack. However, the elder moves with blinding speed, creating multiple after images of himself to effortlessly dodge the assault. The monster roars in frustration, confident that after 5 long years, it will finally be the one to defeat him. Saddle boasts that after 5 years, he has even gained the ability to control the dangerous hallway ghosts. He is confident that not even the old man can escape this attack from the powerful creature under his command. The necromancer explains that the beheader is a grade 5 monster, a level of power few can withstand. With this ghost, he claims he can now kill even the strongest grade 5 inmates with absolute ease. He urges the old warrior to give up and join his cause, offering to spare his life as a reward for his surrender, but the elder simply scoffs, dismissing the passage of 5 years as completely irrelevant to their fight. He reveals that he has endured 60 long years in solitude, making his opponent's experience seem trivial. Argel stands firm against the monster's assault, unimpressed by the power his foe has acquired. He calmly calls the necromancer a greenhorn still far too inexperienced despite his newfound abilities. The veteran questions if Saddle truly thinks his 5 years of struggle can compare to his own 60 years of survival. Enraged by his words, Saddle screams at him to stop spouting nonsense, refusing to accept the truth. In a blur of motion, Argel closes the distance and parries the monster's blade with a powerful counterattack. He tells Saddle that after all that time, the stage he has finally reached is merely a way to measure grades, a superficial understanding of true power. The elder follows up with a devastating punch, landing a clean hit on the beheader's jaw. He tells the young necromancer that for his next lesson, he must learn to see the true essence of power. With a final brutal blow, Argel demonstrates the raw force of his experience. The monster's head explodes from the impact, a clear display of the vast difference in their class. The old warrior stands calmly over the defeated monster's body, the battle decisively won. He looks down at a glowing red symbol on the creature's remains, identifying it as the mark of ghost control. Argel holds up the monster's severed hair, stating it will be a message for the devil worshippers. With a final decisive strike, he completely destroys the mark of control, severing the necromancer's connection. Meanwhile, Roop makes their way through the dark corridor, realizing how hard it is to navigate without their leader. Horik asks if they are on the right path, as finding their way in the confusing hallway is nearly impossible on their own. Menrock worries if the old man is okay after the loud noise they heard, but the young man believes their leader has a plan. Suddenly, Ciro spots a light ahead and points it out to the others just as Argel appears and calls them late. The group is shocked to see him, wondering how he managed to escape the ghost and pass them without being seen. The elder dismisses their questions, telling them to get into the cell quickly as the danger is already over. He explains that the fire-breathing dragons have finished their hunt and left the hallway, but the group is still confused. As they enter the cell, Ciro stares in horror at the scene before him, his face pale with shock. The only things left inside the cell are the charred pitch-black corpses of the other inmates. The young man rushes to Ciro's side, asking if he is okay as the boy covers his face in distress. The old warrior puts a comforting hand on Ciro's shoulder, telling him to accept the harsh reality of solitude. The boy looks up with tear-filled eyes, asking if the weak are simply fated to die in this place. The elder calmly tells him no, explaining that in a prison like this, anyone can die at any time. The grim scene serves as a harsh reminder of what solitude truly is, a place where countless prisoners arrive and die daily. Their lives are forfeit regardless of their grade, personality, abilities, or connections to the outside world. In this brutal prison, the only certainty for most is that they will eventually die. That is all. Menrock stares at the gruesome aftermath, cursing the hellhole they are trapped in. He grimly notes the endless cycle of death and replacement just as roll call time approaches, heralding new arrivals. A system announcement declares the start of morning roll call, revealing that only 5 of the 95 inmates have survived. Due to the extreme personnel shortage in cell block 1257, the remaining survivors will be relocated. The group looks on in shock and confusion, caught completely off guard by the sudden announcement. A bright golden light envelopes them, and Ciro calls out in a panic as his companion tells him to calm down. Argel quickly warns them to listen carefully, as they may be split up after the forced transfer. The inmates are pulled apart by the powerful light, and Menrock shouts in surprise at being forcibly separated. The old warrior gives them one last piece of advice, telling them to run toward the sea if they land in a jungle. Horak yells in confusion, wondering why there would even be a jungle in a high-tech prison. The transfer completes, leaving the remains of their old cell block empty and desolate. Argel finds himself in a new cell, disappointed that everyone got split up, especially the one he thought had potential. To his surprise, the only one who came to the new cell with him was the young boy, Ciro. The elder understands the warden's intent is clear, sending a message to just manage the merchandise he was given. He knows he will be meeting the warden soon enough, but until then, he plans to raise the kid and take what he needs. The old warrior surveys their new surroundings, noting that this cell is 4 times larger and holds around 300 prisoners. A shadowy figure in the distance notices their arrival, pointing out the newcomers to his companion. A group of rough-looking inmates mockingly comments on the old geezer and the brat who were just summoned. One of them suggests enslaving the two, while another remarks on the boy's nice age, calling it the sweet spot. They stare at Zero with hungry eyes, commenting that the young boy is just ripe for the taking. Zero hides behind the elder, nervously pointing out that the other prisoners have weird predatory eyes. Argel calmly steps forward, telling the greedy inmates to stop right there and back off. Just then, a red-haired woman named Roseanne appears with her gang, and the other inmates stammer her name in fear. She mocks Argel for acting high and mighty without an affiliation, and coldly tells him to disappear immediately. As the previous group flees, Roseanne watches them go before ordering her own men to bring the young boy to her. One of her subordinates moves in and grabs Zero, who cries out in fear while hiding behind the old man. The boy panics, his eyes wide with terror as he tries to resist being taken away by the large inmate. He looks back at the elder, confused and scared, wondering why he is just standing by without helping him. The henchman drags Zero away as the boy struggles, begging to be let go while the man tells him to be quiet. Zero's fear intensifies, his wide eyes showing the pure terror he feels as he is pulled away from his protector. Suddenly, the inmate is struck by an unseen force, sending him stumbling forward and causing him to lose his grip on the child. The man is stunned, wondering what just happened, while Roseanne demands to know what her subordinate just did. The red-haired leader scolds her goon, angrily asking why he cannot even do his job properly. She reminds him that the boy is a product entrusted to her by the warden, but the man insists he did not do anything. The henchman looks down at Zero in complete confusion, still trying to process the sudden invisible attack. In the background, Argel watches with a calm, unreadable expression, his intervention having gone unnoticed. A fierce red aura suddenly erupts from Zero as his body begins to transform, his features becoming more feral. The other inmates back away in shock as the transformed boy now stands before them ready to fight. Roseanne smirks, amused by the sight and noting that he is even wagging his tail, deciding he is worth raising. She orders her men to hurry and capture the boy, but they hesitate. Now intimidated by his new form, the transformed Zero lunges at the man who grabbed him, his face contorted in a ferocious snarl. He lands a devastating blow, sending the large inmate flying backward with incredible force. Zero growls at the man, warning him to behave as he cannot kill him, a promise he made to the old man. Enraged, the henchman lunges forward to attack, but the transformed boy easily overpowers him. Another of Rosanna's subordinates rushes in, scolding his comrade for being so disgraceful. He moves to strike Zero, but the boy's feral instincts take over and he easily counters the attack. The new attacker is sent flying, crashing into his ally as Roseanne's men prove unable to even catch one small brat. The enforcer then turns his attention to Argel, demanding to know what the old geezer is doing and telling him to get lost. He raises his hand to strike, but the elder effortlessly catches his arm, stopping him in his tracks. In a single fluid motion, Argel flips the large man over his shoulder, slamming him hard onto the ground. He then lands a swift, decisive blow, knocking the man unconscious with a single punch. The old warrior stands over the fallen bodies, leaving Roseanne and her remaining men completely stunned. The red-haired leader is impressed, her eyes fixed on the blindfolded man's display of power. Argel looks down at the unconscious Zero, noting that even though he lost reason, he is no match for a Class 2 prisoner. He thinks that the boy is not without talent and could become far more valuable in his hands, making him worth raising. Roseanne approaches, mocking the elder for standing in a daze after touching one of her kids. Assuming he is fearless because of his age, the woman grins menacingly, stating that at his age, the only thing left to fear is the Grim Reaper, and she will give him one more thing to fear today. She leaks into the air, her whip cracking as she threatens to tie him up so he cannot move a muscle. The red-haired woman lands, promising to peel his flesh off one slice at a time with her whip. Just as she prepares to strike, a massive figure lands between them, shouting that it is enough. Roseanne is annoyed by the flashy entrance, telling the newcomer not to get in her way as she found the old man first. A large, muscular man with a strange symbol on his forehead now stands before them, his presence intimidating. The newcomer tells Roseanne that it is time to retreat, but she scoffs, questioning who he thinks he is to give her orders. The red-haired woman declares she is always prepared for a war, and it is bound to happen eventually. The large man stands his ground, stating that if she is not backing down, then neither is he. Roseanne mocks him for being slick, noting that he has her surrounded from all sides with no escape route. The man tells her not to fall for every provocation, reminding her that if they fight, it is just what Beckham wants. Defeated, she walks away with her gang, promising to make him regret this someday. The man is relieved she backed down for now, and the elder asks if he saved him in the jungle a year ago. The newcomer grins, confirming the old warrior's memory is correct, though he may have forgotten the encounter. Arjul admits he does not remember, but the man insists that he helped him that day and he has not forgotten. The elder realizes it must have been during the liberation where he unintentionally helped while hunting natives. The man kneels before him, declaring that even if time has passed, the fact that he was saved does not change. He orders his own men to bow their heads, introducing the old warrior as their new big bro. The large man and his entire gang bow in respect, calling out to their new leader. Arjul can only scratch his head, surprised by this sudden and unexpected turn of events. Just then, Zero cries out in pain from a nightmare, begging for it to stop. The boy thrashes in his sleep, his mind still reeling from the traumatic events of the day. The large man, whose name is Morgan, watches with concern before suggesting they continue the briefing. He explains that they are in cell 398 and there are currently 3 major factions inside. The first is the one he leads, known as the Axe or the Morgan Circle. The second is the Whip, which Roseanne's Circle, the group they encountered just a few moments earlier. And the third is the Blade User, Beckham Circle, a group they have yet to encounter. Morgan reveals that all the circle leaders, himself included, are powerful Class 3 prisoners. These 3 circles currently maintain the balance of power and all are preparing to release. One searching near the cells. Arjul notes that Morgan has gotten used to solitude quite well, and the man credits his survival to being able to form a small circle. The elder thanks him for the valuable information and says he will rest now, and Martin offers to bring him some food. As Martin leaves, Arjul calmly eats a bud, his expression unreadable as Zero quietly watches him. The boy asks if the old man did not help him earlier because he is weak and not needed. The elder points out that Zero does not remember his brief awakening and says if he had been abandoned, they would not be together now. He then asks if the boy is scared, and Zero admits he is feeling useless without his companion, Lucas. The young boy says he is too weak to be of any use, but the old warrior tells him he has completely misunderstood. Arjul explains that whether one is strong or weak is not for them to decide, but for the one they stand against. The elder states that he wants Zero to survive in solitude, and he is willing to help him achieve that. He offers to teach the boy how to drive out the darkness in his heart and become truly strong. Zero is stunned by the offer, his eyes wide with a mix of hope and disbelief at the old man's words. But before they can begin, the elder tells him that he must eat first, much to the boy's confusion. The old warrior asks if Zero knows what he fears the most in this desolate prison. He reveals that his greatest fear is hunger, as there is nothing more painful than starvation. Arjul presents him with a bowl of bugs, explaining that one cannot become strong on an empty stomach, a reality he must accept. He tells the boy, if he truly wants to become strong, he must eat no matter how disgusting the food may be. With a look of pure determination, Zero declares he will become strong too and begins to eat the bugs. Elsewhere, a group called the Lausna Circle notes that their leader, Lady Lausna, has gone to make her regular report. In a dark chamber, a robed figure bows before a glowing red orb, reporting on their progress. She confirms they have gathered about half of the living specimens and believes the next phase will be completed on time. The voice from the orb asks if anything unusual has occurred, and she says no, though the elderly and children were transferred. The orb dismisses her concerns but then asks for more details about the elderly inmates. The woman recalls that their eyes had a mysterious light and they moved toward chaos as if drawn to it. The voice asks if this is true, and she confirms there is no mistake, wondering who it could be. A fiery dragon-like entity emerges from the orb, declaring it will go there personally to investigate. The woman is surprised by this decision but offers to capture the old man for her master before he arrives. The leader of demons agrees, giving her permission to duel as she likes with the prisoner. With the authority she has been granted, the woman looks forward to capturing the powerful old man. Now back in her usual attire, the red-haired woman vows to capture all the prey her master desires and present them to him. Back in the cell, Argel and Ciro sit across from each other meditating and channeling their inner energy. They sit in silent concentration, the atmosphere calm and focused as their training begins. The elder tells the boy it is time to begin, instructing him to close his eyes and breathe slowly. Ciro follows his instructions, determined to become stronger and survive the horrors of the prison. Argel explains that fists and techniques are meaningless, as what he ought to learn is something far more fundamental. The elder tells him to breathe in deeply and slowly exhale, focusing on the darkness that covers his vision. As he does, a ripple of energy appears, a sign of his growing control over his inner self. The old warrior explains they will now enter his inner self, and his spirit form floats out of his body. The elder's spirit watches over Ciro, instructing him to keep his breathing steady and slow. At his command, the boy opens his eyes, finding himself in a strange, dark, and unfamiliar place. He calls out for the old man, confused and scared as he looks around the empty void. The elder's voice reassures him, telling him to calm down as he is right there with him. He reveals that this strange place is the inside of Ciro's own mind, his inner self. Argel explains that to become strong, he must first confront the darkness within his heart, and instructs him to take one step forward. As Ciro takes that first step, he is suddenly engulfed in a bright, warm light, a vision of his past. He sees a happy memory of his family, his younger self held lovingly in his mother's arms. Tears stream down his face as he is overwhelmed by the powerful emotions of this long-lost memory. The elder's voice gently tells him that is far enough and instructs him not to look down anymore. He tells Ciro to focus on his voice and exhale slowly, and the boy tries his best to follow the command, but the vision is too powerful and his consciousness begins to fade as he is pulled deeper into the memory. Ciro gasps for air, his feral instincts taking over as he struggles to break free from the overwhelming vision. Back in the real world, Argel praises him for doing well in his first time confronting the darkness within. He reminds the boy to never forget what he is, as the blood he carries is a part of him. Ciro looks at his transformed hands, and the elder tells him that this blood will become his greatest weapon. With the training session over, Argel decides it is time for a meal, and the boy agrees. Just then, Morgan arrives with roasted monster meat, offering it to them as a token of his gratitude. Ciro notices that Morgan's men are not eating and asks if it is okay, but the old man tells him not to worry. Elsewhere, Roseanne and her gang confront Morgan's men, demanding they hand over whatever they have. Morgan's man tells her not to act like it is all hers, but Roseanne mocks him for suddenly acting like a good guy. She looks past him with a sinister grin, surprised to see that he is still alive after their last encounter. He reluctantly hands over their findings, understanding that he has no choice but to comply with her demands. Another of Morgan's men brings over the bodies of the fallen, adding them to the pile. He explains that one of the bodies belongs to a circle member who died in the hallway the day before. Ciro is horrified to realize they are trading corpses for food, and the elder confirms they also eat them. The old warrior grimly explains that this sort of thing happens often in the brutal reality of solitude. As the other inmates celebrate their disgusting haul, Ciro is overcome with nausea and throws up the meat he just ate. Morgan tells his boss to rest up as he and his men are heading back to eat as well. As they leave with their grim meal, Argel looks on with a pensive expression, feeling they got the short end of the stick. He turns to Ciro, telling him to eat all the monster meat and bugs he wants, but to never become like those people. Elsewhere, another group of inmates boasts about their latest kill, mocking their victims' pleas for life. They agree with their leader Beckham that first-class prisoners are trash who cannot even fight back properly. Just then, the man himself Beckham arrives with his own circle, his presence commanding respect and fear. He approaches Morgan and his group, who are surprised to see the leader of the third faction. The two leaders stand face to face, the tension in the air thick with unspoken rivalry and suspicion. One of Morgan's men is surprised that Beckham is willing to share food and loot as their circles are on bad terms. The man explains that is not always the case, as Beckham never picks fights first, preferring to keep everyone under his control. He then reveals that the other leader wants to speak with their boss and asks if they should go together. The elder tells Ciro to head back alone while he goes to meet with Beckham, but the boy is hesitant. Ciro sits with his guards, who complain about being stuck babysitting a brat while everyone else is at Beckham's feast. One of them looks at the boy with hungry eyes, commenting that his meat must be nice and tender. The other warns him to stop drooling, reminding him that if their captain finds out, their own meat will end up on Rosanna's plate. Zero is left alone with his dark thoughts, wondering if he can ever become as strong as the old man in a place like this. He recalls his earlier conversation with the elder who asked if it was his first time seeing someone truly strong. The boy had eagerly confirmed, even asking if the old warrior was not human due to his incredible power. Argel had simply stated he was human, but Zero pressed further, asking if he could use energy or mana. The elder had explained that while he could not use mana, he could control energy to some extent. Zero, full of curiosity, had excitedly told him that he had tons more questions to ask. He had asked about the old man's age, and Argel had simply replied that he was 88. When asked about hobbies, he said he had none but would take walks in the hall when he could not sleep. The boy then asked if he had any friends, and the elder had replied that some were cold on the outside but warm inside, and one even looked like a bear. Finally, Zero had asked the most difficult question of all, why he had come to Solitude in the first place. A grim silence had fallen between them, a bloody image flashing through the old warrior's mind. He had simply stated that his wife died, a truly beautiful woman who was always smiling, before saving the rest for another time. Back in the present, Zero is startled by a sudden noise, his eyes darting around in alarm. He senses danger approaching, his instincts on high alert as he prepares for a potential attack. A whip cracks through the air and Zero finds himself surrounded by Roseanne and her gang. The boy is sent flying by the force of the attack, crashing hard against the unforgiving prison floor. Roseanne looks down at him, a predatory smile on her face as she asks where the old man they are looking for is. She mockingly calls him a little pup, and the boy panics, his mind racing as he tries to figure out what to do. He realizes with a jolt of terror that the old man is not here to protect him, leaving him completely alone and vulnerable. With a demonic grin, the woman beckons him to come closer, and the boy desperately tries to find a way to survive this new threat. Zero grits his teeth, enduring the painful lash of the whip as he's sent flying backward by the force. The red-haired woman comments on his surprising endurance, wondering what changed since his panic attack the day before. Terrified, the boy begs her to stop, warning that something terrible will happen if she lays another hand on him. Roseanne scoffs at his words, questioning if it is a threat and taunting him to hurry up as she is getting bored. She encourages him to bark, and a red aura erupts around Zero as his body begins to transform once again. With a sinister grin, she mentions being sad lately because all her other pets have been dying one by one. She then swings her whip again, hoping this new pet will be able to endure a bit longer than the others. The whip coils tightly around the young boy's ankle, trapping him completely. The woman yanks him off his feet, sending him flying across the cell floor with a powerful tug of her whip. He soars through the air, completely helpless, as Roseanne stands below amidst a fiery, intimidating aura. She pins the defeated boy to the ground with her foot, wondering when the old man will finally make his move. Meanwhile, Argel sits with Morgan and Beckham around a meal, finding the entire situation interesting. Beckham notes that the elder came to the cell right after hunting in the corridors and then asks him a question. The blade user points out that there is no class number written on Argel's neck like other prisoners. The elder explains that it has been a while, but initially, the prison did not assign any class numbers at all. Morgan remarks on how strong he must be, but Argel dismisses his past feats as ancient history. The three powerful inmates continue their quiet meeting amidst the prison's desolate metallic landscape. Beckham reflects on the elder's story, noting it is his first time seeing a survivor without a class number. He recalls the story of him fighting jungle natives alone, and his expression turns suddenly serious. An intense glint appears in his eye as he decides he should test the mysterious old man's strength for himself. Morgan shivers, wondering what the sudden chill was, and blaming it on not having eaten properly lately. The elder then excuses himself to leave, and Beckham asks why he is going so soon without even eating. Argel explains he has a child to look after, but he will take the monster meat with him as he walks away. Beckham thinks to himself that while Morgan did not sense it, the old man showed no reaction to his killing intent. The blade user watches him go, his expression serious as he vows to remember the name Argel. Meanwhile, Sarah lies chained and defeated on the floor as one of Roseanne's men congratulates her. The red-haired woman smiles with glee, her henchman praising the new pet as perfect for her taste. The boy lies still, his body hurting too much to even make a sound, as he wonders how much he will struggle. He thinks that if he just acts like a pet, it might not hurt as much and he might see his brother again someday. Suddenly, one of her men rushes in and she angrily asks if he wants to be killed for being so noisy. The man nervously reports that the old man has appeared, causing a spark of hope to ignite in Siro's eyes. The henchman stammers, trying to explain there is a big problem with their unexpected visitor. With a terrified expression, he reveals that the old warrior is not alone. The woman is stunned to see Argel standing before her, backed by the full force of the other two circles. Martin shouts at Roseanne from the crowd, telling her that she does not seem to value her life. She calls him a parasite and challenges him to attack if he is so confident, but he fumes at her disrespect. The elder tells his ally to calm down, stating that he will speak to the woman directly. He stands alone in the open area, looking up at her and demanding that she return his friend. Roseanne refuses, declaring the boy is hers since she caught him and blaming Argel for failing to protect him. The old warrior finds her reasoning completely absurd, his expression hardening at her twisted logic. Argel tells the woman she does not understand the boy's true value, using him just to get his attention. With a grim expression, the old warrior warns her that having that child with her means she will surely die. Roseanne scoffs at his threat, confident that only someone like Martin would fall for such an obvious bluff. Enraged, Martin offers to rescue the child and bring her the woman's head, but Argel tells him it is not necessary. The large man is completely confused as his big brother simply turns and begins to walk away with the group. The elder explains that there is no problem taking Siro back slowly because they will not kill him. In fact, he clarifies that they should not even be able to kill the boy in the first place. He knows the merchandise will be kept safe as the warden himself is watching over the situation. As the group leaves, Argel stops for a moment, lost in thought in the middle of the large hall. He finds himself alone in a long, quiet corridor, thinking about the recent turn of events. The old warrior remarks that it has been quite a while since he and a certain someone have met. A mysterious dark-haired figure appears, asking if he has friends, and he admits he has a few cold yet warm ones. He notes that she must have spotted him in passing, identifying her as one of his few friends. A beautiful woman named Chris materializes before him, surrounded by a brilliant light blue aura. She explains that the atmosphere was too intense to ignore, so she came to say hello and check on his health. The elder admits he is worried, as the time he has been given does not seem to be very long. Chris offers to clean up the troublesome elements in the cell, noting the presence of several demon worshippers. However, Argel declines her offer, concerned that his merchandise might get caught in the crossfire and die. The woman smiles warmly, mentioning she is going to see her sister and asking him to give her his regards. She then embraces the old warrior, telling him to let her know if he needs anything, as he is their benefactor. As she disappears, the old warrior is left floating in a sea of blue energy, deep in thought. He reflects that no matter his current situation, he cannot go so far as to borrow a young child's help. Standing alone in a dark, high-tech corridor, he admits to himself that he has grown old. His restraints crackle with electricity as he realizes he can no longer solve everything head-on like he used to. However, as lightning courses through his hand, he knows that what he needs to do is not completely impossible. He realizes there is no need to hold back his strength, as the bodies of his fallen enemies lie around him. With a surge of power, lightning crackles around his unique spiral blade, ready for action. Argel unleashes his power, his form a whirlwind of blue energy, as he prepares for the coming battle. Meanwhile, Roseanne walks through a dark metallic corridor, her thoughts drifting to her own past. She recalls that she was once just an ordinary Class 3 prisoner, her arm bleeding from a recent injury. She had been just another face in the crowd, struggling to survive in the brutal prison. That all changed when she met that person, a massive, intimidating figure with immense power. She had been so overwhelmed by his presence that she instinctively knelt at his feet, unable to even make eye contact. It was that person's authority that allowed her to climb to her current position of power within the prison. One of her men calls out to her, waking her from a deep sleep, and she groggily asks what he wants. The man nervously apologizes but insists that she needs to confirm something immediately. She threatens to send him flying if it is nothing important, but he urgently tells her all their guys have been taken out. He explains that when they woke up, everyone was already dead and the red-haired leader is completely stunned. She asks what he is talking about, knowing that everyone wakes up at the same time due to the anti-stand system. With a look of dawning horror, she realizes that a surprise attack while they were sleeping should be impossible. She stands before the grim aftermath, realizing that out of 100 of her men, 40 are now dead. One of her subordinates notes they were all killed with a sharp, awl-like weapon he has never seen before. A dark thought crosses her mind as she connects the unique weapon to a certain old man. She furiously rushes off in search of the little boy, demanding to know where that brat is. Convinced this is the Jesus doing, she looks down at the remains of the boy's restraints. With a look of pure determination, she rallies her remaining men and declares it is time to begin the hunt. Meanwhile, Sarah wakes up to find himself safe with Arjul, who asks if his consciousness has returned. The boy hangs his head in shame, realizing that the old man has saved him yet again. He tells the elder that after everything he has been through, he finally understands that he must protect himself. The young boy clenches his fists, a new resolve burning within him as he addresses the old warrior. With wide determined eyes, he declares that he wants to become stronger no matter what it takes. Just then, Morgan arrives asking why the kid is there and reminding his big brother it is time for roll call. The elder explains that he brought the boy and that the three of them have something important to discuss. Roseanne and her large group march through the prison, their anger and determination clear on their faces. They arrive at the common area to find the other two circles already gathered. Waiting for them, Arjul stands with Beckham and Morgan, the three leaders ready for the inevitable confrontation. The red-haired woman screams at the damn geezer to come out and face her, her voice filled with rage. She tells Morgan to shut up, declaring that her only business is with the old man who crossed her. She accuses him of taking out her subordinates and kidnapping her little boy, her anger reaching its peak. The elder calmly looks back at her, asking if he should kill her too and put her on the dinner table. Arjul calls her noisy for not understanding the situation, but she demands to know what he just said. With a stern expression, he simply repeats that she is loud, his voice cutting through the tension. The red-haired woman trembles with rage, unable to form a coherent response to his calm dismissal. The elder then turns to the other two leaders, asking for their thoughts on the proposal he just made. Morgan quickly agrees, stating that it is his big brother's proposal and a very welcome one for his circle. Beckham also agrees, noting that while there might be casualties, the potential reward is worth the risk. The elder then turns back to the confused Roseanne, explaining that he was making a proposal to the other two circles. He calmly suggests that since 40 of her men are already dead, they should hold a feast and capture the remaining 60 as slaves. The red-haired woman is completely stunned by his audacious proposal, her mind reeling from the implications. A cold sweat runs down her face as she realizes the terrifying reality of her situation. Each of the three circles had 100 members, maintaining a delicate balance of power. But now, thanks to the old Jesus' actions, many of her forces are dead and the balance has been shattered. The new alliance now has a combined force of 200, while her circle is left with a mere 60. She realizes this creates a power gap too large to handle, and a reflection of her defeat appears in her eye. An overwhelming sense of fear rushes in as she looks out at the massive army now standing against her. Her mind goes blank, unable to think of any possible way to escape this hopeless situation. She knows there is no way to win against forces more than triple the size of her own. As the massive army charges forward, Arjul leads the attack, his form a blur of red-hot fury. The two sides clash in a brutal and bloody battle, the sounds of fighting echoing through the prison. Rosanna's forces are quickly overwhelmed, their bodies torn apart by the sheer numbers of their opponents. Rosanna fights desperately, swinging her whip in a bloody frenzy, as she is completely surrounded and overwhelmed. In the chaotic fray, a sharp blade finds its mark, piercing through the red-haired woman's chest. She is quickly swarmed and stabbed from all sides, her body falling amidst the relentless assault. Arjul watches the grim scene from a distance, calmly remarking that he had already warned her of this fate. After the battle, he enters a hidden chamber and finds a strange altar with a glowing red orb, a clear sign of the demon worshippers. He picks up the object, identifying it as a life force orb and noting that they have been gradually collecting them. As he holds the orb, a powerful red energy emanates from the altar, enveloping him completely. The elder seems annoyed, realizing that being involved in such troublesome matters will likely delay his meeting with the warden. He then speaks to the orb, calling out to someone named Darkus and asking if he is listening. Arjul recalls his previous encounter with Saddle, who is linked with a ghost, and mentions he's severed that connection. He warns Darkus to stop pursuing him, telling the demon worshipper that he will regret it if he continues. A new deep voice suddenly speaks from the altar, dismissing the old warrior's words as boring chatter. The massive demonic figure of darkness appears, taunting Arjul and asking if he is scared. The elder retorts asking if he looks like someone who would fear him and begins to crush the life force orb in his hand. With a final decisive squeeze, he shatters the orb, warning that if darkness chases him, he will die without fail. Elsewhere in a lavish room, a long-haired man with red eyes sits calmly sipping from a fancy chalice. This powerful figure is revealed to be the vampire king Endurus, a terrifying and high-ranking Class 8 prisoner. As someone tries to approach, the vampire king angrily tells them to get lost, threatening to kill everyone in the room. Suddenly, Darkus appears before him, calmly stating that he has something he needs to discuss with Endurus. The demon commander, also a Class 8 prisoner, reveals that he has a proposal for the vampire king. The vampire king calmly sips his drink, remarking that, as always, the demon commander has no sense of manners. Darkus reminds him that they both serve the Void constellation and insists the proposal is good for him too. The massive demon commander then makes his request, asking for help to capture the old warrior, Argyll. However, Endurus flatly refuses, stating that among black magic users, there is no true master or disciple relationship. He advises the demon to give up, claiming the old man is completely out of his league, which enrages Darkus. The commander warns the vampire king that a time will come when he will regret making this choice. With a menacing, toothy grin, Darkus declares that he will simply capture Argyll all by himself. The vampire king simply smirks back, sarcastically wishing him the best of luck with his foolish endeavor. Darkus then vanishes in a swirling vortex of dark energy, leaving the lavish room in a sudden silence. Endurus scoffs at the demon's arrogance, calling him an insolent brat who still does not understand his own position. He reflects that any prisoner who climbs the ranks in Solitude eventually learns the name Argyll Rastos. The vampire king wonders to himself how a mere human has managed to survive in this hellish prison for decades. Meanwhile, the new alliance celebrates their victory with a massive feast, roaring about finally getting to eat. While the allied circles each lost 20 men, Rosna's circle suffered an additional 30 deaths, including her own. One of Beckham's men reports that the rest of the defeated inmates have all been bound and put into storage. Morgan raises his food in a toast, thanking his big brother for helping them dispose of the arrogant Rosna. Beckham watches the elder drink blood like water, and Argyll simply comments that it is not bad. The old warrior turns down the offer of meat, explaining that he has no appetite after moving around so much. Beckon is impressed by the man's power and formally asks if he would be willing to join their circle. Morgan then reveals his plan to unite the lower-class prisoners to fight the mid-class inmates in the upcoming release. However, Argyll calmly declines the proposal, his expression unreadable as he looks back at Beckham. The blade user asks why, and the elder explains he is too old for such grand things and will support him instead. He then turns to Morgan and clarifies that he has no intention of joining his circle either, much to his surprise. Beckham asks if he will not come with them, but Argyll simply excuses himself, stating he is busy taking care of a child. The two powerful leaders can only stare in confusion, both wondering why he would be taking care of a child. 6 days later, the old warrior and Ciro are back to their training, and it is time for the boy to enter his inner self again. Ciro asks why he has to walk through his memories, and the elder explains it is to know what he truly desires. With that, they begin their meditation, both sitting cross-legged in silent concentration. The boy finds himself back in the dark, watery expanse of his own mind, a familiar yet unsettling place. He remembers that this is his 8th time entering his inner self, and this time, he must try to walk forward continuously. He recalls that all of Argyll's training has been focused on inner cultivation, forcing him to confront painful memories. As he walks, he is bombarded with visions of his past, his mother begging him to come back as his father blocks the door. The boy realizes that he would rather be beaten and feel physical pain than relive these traumatic experiences. He sees memories of parting with loved ones, his home being destroyed by massive war machines, but he forces himself to push forward, trusting that the old man has a reason for making him do this. The elder's voice echoes in his mind, reminding him to never look down when he is in the darkness. With a new resolve, the boy agrees, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination as he thinks about the old man. He continues his long, arduous walk through the dark void, pushing past the pain and the memories. After what feels like an eternity, he reaches the edge of a cliff, a dead end with nowhere else to go. Just then, the elder's voice commands him to proceed if he truly wants to become strong, leaving the boy terrified. Sweat pours down his face as he admits he is scared, but he knows he must become strong. He takes a deep breath, determined not to lose any more precious people in his life. With a renewed sense of purpose, he steps off the cliff, reminding himself he will be fine as long as he does not look down. But as he falls, his eyes widen in terror as he realizes he is not alone in the dark abyss. Something is there at his feet, a swirling vortex of dark purple energy that seems to be calling to him. A voice echoes from the darkness, greeting him after what has been a very long time. The voice expresses its sadness that he has not called for it until now, and the boy realizes it is talking to him. He nervously tries to respond, but the voice asks if he can hear it or if he is ignoring it again. The dark entity blames him for his people's suffering, and the boy is stunned by the accusation. It claims that if he had not been so selfish, his people would not have died and they suffered because of him. A massive multi-eyed demonic creature emerges from the darkness. His presence overwhelming and terrifying. The boy struggles to breathe, the immense pressure crushing him as he begs for the pain to stop. His eyes widen in pure terror, the psychic assault becoming too much for him to bear. He lets out a final agonizing scream as the darkness threatens to consume him completely. Just as he is about to be pulled into the abyss, a hand reaches out and grabs him, pulling him back to safety. His body transforms, his features becoming more feral as he grits his teeth against the overwhelming pain. Back in the real world, the boy collapses on the floor as the elder stands over him, the intense training session finally over. Arjel congratulates him, a small smile on his face as he looks down at the exhausted but transformed boy. Zero looks at his own body, shocked to see that it has grown bigger and more powerful after facing the darkness within. The old warrior looks up with a serious expression, sensing that the time for their next challenge has finally come. The elder tells the boy to follow him, promising to teach him what he truly desires. Zero is confused, his mind still reeling from the intense training as he wonders what it is that he desires. Arjel looks back at him with a serious expression, proposing about to teach him how to fight. He then floats into the air, his body weightless as he prepares for their first combat lesson. The boy is shocked as a fist flies toward his face, his mind struggling to process the sudden attack. But his instincts kick in and he manages to dodge the punch, surprised by his own newfound reflexes. However, the elder is relentless, landing a powerful blow that sends the young boy flying backward. He lands hard on the ground, and Arjel explains that to become skilled in combat, several methods are necessary. The first and most important is to learn to fight with pure, unadulterated instinct. The two clash in a flurry of blows, the elder pushing his new student to his absolute limits. He tells the boy to draw out the wild instincts from within and use them to their fullest potential. The old warrior notes that while Zero's power is good, his movements are far too obvious and easy to predict. He easily counters the boy's attack, sending him flying once again with a well-placed strike. Arjel tells him to stop thinking and simply follow his impulses, embracing his feral nature. He urges the boy to fight with the feeling that he will smash everything in his path, unleashing his true power. As they continue their intense spar, the boy's attacks become faster, more fluid, and far more unpredictable. The elder notes that his student's attacks are no longer just focused on his head, but have spread out to his entire body. He realizes the boy has started using pure intuition instead of his head, a sign of his growing talent. Arjel is impressed, admitting that being able to immediately put his teachings into practice is a rare gift. The two continue their intense training, the sounds of their battle echoing through the desolate prison. The elder then reveals the second method for becoming skilled in combat. He lands another powerful blow, sending the boy flying backward in a burst of fiery energy. Arjel explains there is a dimensional difference between those who have tasted suffering and those who have not. He continues his relentless assault, forcing his student to endure the pain and push past his limits. The young boy struggles to defend himself, his body battered and bruised from the intense training. Finally, he collapses on the ground, completely exhausted and unable to move another muscle. A warm orange glow begins to emanate from his body, surrounding him in a fiery aura. The elder watches with a thoughtful expression, wondering if the boy will be able to return to his normal state. The fiery energy intensifies, consuming the boy's body as the transformation reaches its peak. Arjel kneels beside him, deciding that the third method will have to wait for another time. He looks down at the unconscious boy, wondering how much he will be able to grow from this point on. As the boy sleeps, the old warrior admits to himself that he is looking forward to seeing his student's progress. Zero finds himself in a dream, a vision of an old memory of his younger self running to his mother. He sees himself fishing with his father, a peaceful and happy time from long ago. The dream then shifts and he remembers a time when his father always favored his big brother. He recalls the feeling of being unloved, watching his father and brother walk away without him. The young boy stands alone in the darkness, the weight of his sad memories pressing down on him. Tears stream down his face as he realizes all he wants is to see his father again. Back in the real world, he wakes up to find himself sitting beside Arjil, who notes his fast recovery. The elder explains they are on the rooftop of a building and tells him to focus on the prisoners below. The boy uses his newly enhanced senses, his eyes glowing as he looks down at the prisoners below. He wonders why everyone is sleeping, and the elder confirms that it is now sleep time for the inmates. Arjil then asks his young student how it feels to have overcome the prisons, no standing system. He explains that only those who have truly faced the darkness within themselves can overcome the prison's regulations. The young boy looks at his hands in awe, wondering if he too can now be like the old man. The elder silently notes that the merchandise is growing much faster than he had originally anticipated. He thinks that the boy's growth means he should be exchangeable for the medicine needed to sustain his own body. The old warrior clutches his chest, knowing his weakened body has overused its strength for far too long. He thinks about all the recent troubles like the necromancer saddle and the whip woman Razna. He also recalls his recent encounter with the demon worship sect's powerful commander, Darkus. The elder concludes that meeting the dangerous people he has avoided for so long was likely inevitable. Elsewhere, an inmate carefully polishes his large blade, preparing for the coming event. Other prisoners are also getting ready, with one leader telling them not to let their guard down. Morgan reflects on his 3 years of survival, feeling he has now grasped the intuition needed for this day. He stands ready and determined, vowing to skillfully get through the coming challenge once again. Zero notices that everyone seems busy, and the elder confirms that today is release day. The old warrior explains it is a system designed for prisoners to anticipate, and many will die today. Suddenly, they both look up, a strange and unexpected phenomenon catching them completely off guard. Zero recognizes the light from roll call, and the elder notes that the release is starting sooner than expected. A system announcement declares that the release begins now as a large glowing portal appears in the air. Arjil and Zero look up as a massive, high-tech structure materializes in the sky, bathing them in a brilliant, colorful light. A towering pillar of golden hexagonal energy erupts from the ground, identified as Lower Corridor 8972. The other prisoners are engulfed in the intense light, their faces a mix of shock and confusion as the event unfolds. The elder explains that this is the Creolice, a system that forces all inmates out of their cells and into the corridors. He warns that the corridors are dangerous places filled with monsters, but they also present a great opportunity. Arjil then senses a new threat approaching and tells Zero to get ready as the first wave of enemies arrives. A group of small goblin-like creatures armed with sharp daggers suddenly charges toward them from the light. A massive horde of the creatures swarms out from the portal, their high-pitched shrieks filling the entire area. The young boy is completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of monsters charging directly at them. The old warrior calmly tells his student to prepare himself, as today they will finally experience real combat.
Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.